Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Friday, October 25th, 2024. It is the 4th of Scorpio and the day of the vampire. In our astrology, the sun is in Scorpio, fixed water, representing resourcefulness. The moon is fourth quarter Leo, fixed fire, representing enthusiasm. Mercury is in Scorpio, fixed water, representing the spiritual. Venus is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, representing generosity. Mars is in Cancer, cardinal water, representing seeking security. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is to redefine dreams. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is spiritual awakenings. And Pluto is in Capricorn, cardinal earth, representing reconstruction. Our retrograde reminders are Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. Saturn, reclaim your authority. Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. Neptune, reclaim your magic. Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our moon phase is the fourth quarter, so release what does not serve you. For our Leo moon, remember our do's are lead, perform, and celebrate, and our don'ts are depressing environments, unappreciative people, and tedious details. So on this day of Venus, we have the lunar Leo and we have Sagittarius Venus, and they just work really well together. Both share instincts for sharing, nurturing, adventure, enjoyment, and embracing every single aspect of life in every possible way you can imagine. So take this time to share and joint hobbies or mutually enjoyable activities with your sweetie. Celebrate the beauty of what you have and what you share together. It's all about what you have in common. Our tarot for today is the Five of Imps. Five represents challenges. The suit of Imps is the emotional masculine, projective energy, the fire element, and drive. And the keywords for this card are rebellion, struggle, and competition. And that's certainly what we observe. We've got all these imps, they have these sticks, and they're just, whack, whack, banging away at each other. So there is going to take a little bit to sort that out. So if you are feeling a struggle between yourself and everything else, I would just encourage you to take a step back. First of all, is this about something that really matters? Now, if it does, then of course you must stand your ground and you must battle through it. But if it doesn't, perhaps you could withdraw. Or if it's not something that has to be taken care of right this instant, saying, maybe this isn't the day. Maybe it'd be more productive to redirect my energies in a different area. We'll just table this issue, whatever it is, for the time being, and come back to it in a few days. That's another thing you might do to deal with however this energy is manifesting in your life. And of course, if it's something entirely external to you, then you have choices to make. Do you feed further energy into it, or do you withdraw your energy from it? I don't think in this day of social media, we really realize how much the audience actually contributes to the energetic environment. What we give attention to is feeding it. What we interact with feeds it. What we share feeds into this energy. And that's something to keep in mind, especially when it's how we handle making people aware about things that are undesirable in society, because we don't want to be unintentionally feeding energy into those things that we would prefer not to be taking place. So act with wisdom. It isn't that, we need to avoid conflict at all costs, but it is about being a bit more judicious with how we approach conflict. Now, today's Celtic Triad reads, there are three things that are never at rest in anyone: the heart in working, the breath in moving, and the soul in purposing. And this, of course, we have the surface level, obvious on the physical, all work requires the heart to pump blood, duh, no movement can take place without breathing. The breath is pretty necessary to life. And of course, that's working in conjunction with the heart. And the soul is fed by having a strong sense of purpose. We understand this. People who have a sense of purpose, they generally tend to find the energy to go out and to fulfill that purpose. It's the ones who lack it that kind of get tossed around and or are listless and don't really accomplish anything. So for these things not to be at rest, this is indicating a state of health, and that a lack of these things is probably an indication that something is wrong, or that someone has shed the mortal coil entirely, if in spirit, if not in body. And this reminds me of a conversation I had a couple months ago about, is it possible to become unsold? And it was interesting. There's a lot of back and forth on the issue. And then, of course, there's a distinction between, is the spirit, essentially the electricity that keeps us going, or is that the soul itself? Are these things different? And yeah, the conclusion that was kind of arrived at was that it probably is possible to be unsouled. What keeps us animated, that might be a somewhat more impersonal force, whereas the soul is something that's infused, that's, more just us, whether we're embodied or disembodied, depending upon which side of the veil we're on. But to be unsold, that would be such an abandonment. And of course, it would be made manifest in how we behave. And there are people, you can tell that, you know, their physical being is still going and it's not going to stop anytime soon. But you look at their eyes and there's just nothing there. So tell me what you think about that in the comments. Do you think it is possible to be unsold? Because I'm not it's been like I said, it's been a few months since I had that conversation, and I'm not remembering all the salient points. And so that's why I'm not expressing it as articulately as I would prefer to. But I think this is something that I would like to toss out to the rest of the community and just, what do you think? Why do you think it? What was your thought process in coming around to that conclusion? It'd be interesting to see just where people are at. Now, today's magical correspondences are on the topic of sympathy. The color for this is pink. The plant is carnation. The animal is cats, specifically white cats. And the crystal is pink tourmaline. So, if we're going to have a general sense of humanity to awaken or reawaken, I use the term awaken in the presentation because I think for many people that was never instilled in them to begin with. So you really are starting from scratch. This would be brand new territory for them. But if this is going to come about, it will require people to have mutual sympathy for one another. Now, I do not mean sympathy in the terms of making excuses for each other or just enduring bad behavior with no consequences. That's not the sort of sympathy I'm talking about. That would be very toxic sympathy. But I am talking about being able to take someone else's perspective into account, being able to understand and accept on a deeper level that the world really does look different from their perspective, and whether they're right or wrong or whatever else, they are reacting to things as they see them. So even if their vision is distorted, if we can have sympathy, well, if this is what the information that I had available to me and it was presented as absolute fact and that anything outside of it was a lie, then I would probably come to that conclusion too. And then I think that could help lower the tone on a lot of controversial conversations. And I think it might help start, with a teeny tiny little baby step, putting us back on the path of re-embracing our humanity and also rehumanizing people that we are in opposition to. Mm, Yeah, I'll leave it there for right now because that could go into a whole multi-hour discussion, and that's not what we're here for this morning. Moving on to practices, I have a sound and spell jar for you in the next slide. And then the question, do you ever feel like a vampire as though you are feeding on others in some way? This is particularly of significance to people who have empathic capabilities. This would include pretty much anyone who has the capability of practicing witchcraft, because the energy to perceive on others, that's not just perception. And also, there's also the question of energy that we can infuse onto them and energy that we can take away. And that is not something that gets brought up in a lot of pagan discussions. And I'm probably going to start bringing up that point more and more of what energies are we actually feeding upon, because some people, without realizing it, because this stuff isn't really explained to us for most of us as children, the mechanics of energy and how people with empathic capabilities actually function on the functional level. That isn't something that's hard, that it really hasn't been explored, and it certainly hasn't been discussed, and we need to, because there are far many too many empaths out there who they take in all of the burdens of the world, and they don't realize some of them don't handle it very well, and they become pretty insufferable pretty quickly. And a lot of them don't recognize that as awful as the troubles of the world can be for them, that they can actually form an unwholesome craving for it. It's not just craving for the drama, which some personality types are a bit more prone to. This is something that goes far beyond that. It makes people unwell. So that's what I have in mind of thinking about the vampiric. So, so We will probably get into that more later on. So I just want to toss that question out there as kind of an opening volley. Then, how can your actions be like Venus? Where is there a distinct lack of Venusian wisdom in society? And Fridays are for romantic evenings, so listen to some music with your sweetie or anything else that your heart might desire, but just spend some real time with them. Now, our Samhain spell jars. This calls for pumpkin seeds, which relate to fertility, the harvest, and new life. Marigolds for purity, divinity, death, and rebirth. Rosemary for protection and remembrance. Carnelian for warmth and life. And salt for protection. So it's all of the goodness of the whole feeling and every theme of Samhain just wrapped into one for this particular spell jar. And if you wanted to add something a little bit more personal into this, not just to maybe acknowledge this as the offering, or perhaps trying to attract more of those energies into your ritual, is to really make that restart of the ritual have greater magnitude. But also, if you wanted to put something more personal into to add a little note, maybe a wish for the new year, maybe something you want to banish, whatever it is, let's just insert that into that with all of those goodness and ingredients, and then make use of it. So, what do you really wish to bring into the spiritual new year? And I think this we should start making some pretty serious intentions and wishes about that, because this is a big moment for us. At least for those of us in the craft. People who mark their years in different ways. You probably have a different point, but for us, for my brothers and sisters in the craft, this is it. This is our restart moment. It's the culmination of all that was. It's the beginning of everything coming. So, what do we really want to bring into that? Because we have, because of our magical capabilities, we have greater agency in this regard to actually bring things in. So, what are you wanting to bring in? Then for our journal prompt, who is the quintessential dark romance leading lady? Who is that in your opinion? And on that note, I wish you a magical and a delightfully spooky day. Have a good one. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. I threw out a lot of philosophical questions today, and am interested in what you think because, without you telling me, I don't know where you're at with any of this. So it would be interesting to see where people are with everything. But in the meantime, have a good day. I will see you in the next one, and bye for now.